So Cam's done an awesome job of making sure that, when we do have success and he has success, he understands and he verbalizes the fact that, his teammates are really lifting him up and helping him in so many different ways.
He's just a really efficient scorer, too, right now.
He is if you take out the Iowa State game,
yeah.
In that game he was inefficient, which is what we say we need to make the other teams. But the rest of the year he's shooting something ridiculous like 68% from the field. So, we need to make sure that we keep putting him in those positions. And it's a fine line where he's not overdoing it and trying to force too much. But I think he's passing the ball really well.
You're 10 games in and ranked 6th and 4th in the country. This is a point where you're starting to turn the page to conference play here coming up. You've got Dayton coming up this weekend first to wrap up the non-conference portion of the schedule. But from year to year, and you've been doing this quite a while now, how long does it typically take you to really define the roles and feel comfortable with where you have guys and what you're asking out of them? How much does that change from year to year depending on the team?
It does depend on the team. Last year we had, other than Omax Prosper, everyone else back from the previous year. And Omax, in terms of maybe, as we say the cups on our team, he was maybe our 4th or 5th cup guy. First cup being Tyler Kolek in that particular year. And so defining roles is simpler and it happens quicker. These guys work on their games a great deal in the offseason, but if you're on a team and you got Tyler Kolek as a returning point guard, he's probably going to be the point guard again and have a similar role. Cam Jones really had a head start on this season because of the 6-game stretch that we played in late February and early March when Tyler was out. As much as that stretch was no fun at the time, having Tyler on the sidelines, it was really, really good for this season because – with Sean on the sidelines and Tyler on the sidelines, we got to look at Cam Jones as the full-time point guard, and we got a chance to see, how that would look in different actions on the offensive end, how he would be on the defensive end without those guys. And I thought he was really good, so that's what gave me a lot of confidence that coming into this year he could adopt that role. But to answer your question, 10 games in, you get a real sense for what you want the roles to be. That doesn't necessarily mean that every single game it plays out that way. And then, by the way, you've got 3 freshmen out there, Demarius and Royce, who are true freshmen, and then Caden Hamilton, who's a redshirt freshman. And those guys, as Tom Hanks, Forrest Gump used to say, those guys are a lot like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Right. We got the Iowa State game. Royce and Demarius were out of this world. And then the next game against Wisconsin, they literally couldn't function in the game defensively, so they had to sub out. But, man, they got bright futures.
Yeah, you look – Demarius is a guy that has stood out to me at times this year and really looks like he has such a high ceiling and a bright future ahead of him. When you look at freshmen, at some point do they stop being freshmen or do you have to worry about them hitting a wall too? Like how do you manage that with freshman production?
They stop being freshmen about a week after their last game of their freshman year. They take that week off, then they walk back into the gym in the Al McGuire Center, and they have a different walk, they have a different look, the cloud has cleared, and they have a clarity about them. And you say to yourself, man, I wish this would have happened a month ago or 2 months ago, but I've seen it. I've been coaching a long time. I've seen it over and over again. There's a clarity that you gain. I remember feeling it, as a freshman. But that doesn't mean that they can't do terrific things this year. And do they hit a wall? Absolutely. They hit multiple walls. But, as Kobe said, when you hit the wall, you got to punch through it, blast through it. And that's what we'll always work to do.
Is there a part of it, too, when they come back and now they're, quote, unquote, not freshmen anymore, they also have some ownership in the program because they know there's going to be guys coming in underneath of them now and they're part of the veteran group now?
Every guy on our team should have ownership of the program.
Yeah.
And the longer you're here, the more ownership you have. That's our way. We don't have any transfers in our program. We don't have any guys that, before they got here knew some other way of doing it at some other school. These guys are all Marquette guys. They were recruited that way. Most of them were recruited from their junior year in high school up until they got here. So it's a long-standing relationship. I mean, we've got 4 guys that we signed that are seniors in high school right now, that we've known in some cases for over a year, and we're communicating with those guys on a daily basis. We got a Zoom. We do regular Zoom meetings with them where we get together. We talk about how their season's going. We talk about how our season's going. So when you talk about ownership of the program, these 4 incoming guys already have it, and they're not even here yet. But that's one advantage that we feel like we can have is when you have that type of A, continuity, and then B, connectivity and genuine care and concern for, this logo right here and what it represents, then you got a chance to have something special.
Coach, we talked about the big win over Wisconsin over the weekend and what that meant to this fan base, to the program and everybody else. But not just to win, but to be able to pull the seniors at the same time off the floor and give them that chance to come off the floor together. What did that mean to you? What did that mean to them?
Well, I just wanted to give them a message. It's amazing how Cam Jones, he's got a unique ability to translate a message when asked by the media. So they asked him what I said, and he said a version of what I said that was acceptable to share publicly. It's not exactly what I said, but it's a form of intelligence. It really is. But I just wanted to get with those guys because they've been the guardians of this program since the day they got here. They didn't know the difference between the basket and the holes in the floor where the volleyball poles go in when they first got here. I'm exaggerating, but what they've learned and how far along they've come. So I just wanted to share that moment with them, and then also give them a challenge and a message about the rest of this season and what we want to get out of it.
We talked before that Western Carolina game about David Joplin and how he's made such an emphasis with himself to really get on the boards this year. How proud are you of just what he's done over his time here?
Yeah, I want more. I want more from him. I probably will never be satisfied, with guys like Jop and Cam, but I just think that he's capable of even more. This is the best season he's had through 10 games to this point. But there's probably never going to be, just this perfect, calm, tensionless dynamic between me and Jop until his last game, because I just feel like he has more in him, and we got to go after it. I felt like certain great players that I've coached in the past, just in the name of making sure that they felt okay and that they could go function. Sometimes I would let up a little bit because they are human beings. But then sometimes you regret, man, I should have made him give more and demanded more. So that's what it's going to be. But certainly, Jop's rebounding a lot better than he has, and we're going to need that on Saturday.
Well, don't wreck a great time. The Marquette Golden Eagles remind you to drive sober or get pulled over. Visit zeroinwisconsin.gov to learn more. Zero in Wisconsin. Together we can save lives. Wisconsin DOT. We'll take a break, and we will be back with more from Motor Bar and Restaurant here at the Harley Davidson Museum. This is the Marquette Basketball Hour.
Golden Eagles fans, open a Marquette checking account.
You can enjoy great food and drinks and specials all night if you come down here. Make sure to join us on select Thursdays throughout the season to hear from Shaka and his players. And the next show coming up December 19th. Chase Ross is scheduled to join us next week at Motor Bar and Restaurant. Well, Coach, we talked about what had happened. Take me through, you mentioned it a little bit, what finals week is like. No games until the weekend, so the emphasis is these guys getting their work done in the classroom, and you have to be a little bit flexible with the schedule in terms of practice time.
Yeah, I mean, everyone on our team is in a different position with different numbers of finals and different academic requirements. I mean, everyone has some work, but I would say the amount of studying and the academic load on a Stevie Mitchell is probably even higher than maybe on certain other guys, just because. And I remember this when I was in college. You know, if you're going after that 4.0, then you know that takes another level of studying and preparation and intentionality. So we just had to focus on making sure our guys were able to have the attention and the time necessary to dedicate to finishing strong in the classroom, but at the same time get some practice in, get some individual skill work in, and some preparation for later on this week.
I know you don't forget this part, but for those of us that pop in and out and just see the games, it's easy to forget that that's a big part of this thing for all of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, they're student athletes. I always tell people they're doing 2 full-time jobs. You know, most people that go to college, I mean, that's kind of their job. They go to college, you know, they take classes and they study and they, you know, prepare to get a degree. Our guys are doing that, and then the basketball absolutely is a full-time. I mean, the amount of time that our guys spend on their bodies and their games and watching tape and, you know, stuff outside of practice. So, you know, if you know anyone that's doing 2 full-time jobs, they're pretty busy.
How much is the part that you just mentioned, working on your body and making sure you're healthy and getting recovered, how much has that changed in the last 10, 15, 20 years?
Well, I think because of sports science and because of all the information out there and new more modalities to work on your body, that it's even more. And the example I'll use is last year when Tyler got hurt, there was a modality of treatment that we hadn't really used a lot before, but that, you know, clearly was helping him recover quicker. And so he was spending hours a day on that particular type of treatment. And, you know, it's time. It's not like it's particularly strenuous, but it's still time in your day. And so you've got particularly a guy like Stevie Mitchell or Chase Ross, the way that they play, how hard they play, you know, how much they throw their bodies around. You know, by the time you get to this point in the season, there's a lot of different, as Mike Tomlin says, bumps and bruises associated with play that you have to address.
You know, you just mentioned Chase. He had been playing banged up a little bit, looked really good against Wisconsin, though, looked like himself.
He's a gamer, you know, and he's a guy that he comes alive for big games. And so, man, he's such a powerful domino for our team on both ends of the floor because he brings poise, he brings toughness. Nobody's going to be tougher than him. And he's got such a playmaking skill on the defensive end where he can kind of make plays to blow up what the other team's doing and to ignite something for us.
All right, so now Dayton is up next on the schedule. This is a place you have history. You were a part of the Dayton staff with Oliver Purnell when you were the director of basketball operations back in the early 2000s. So I'm sure for you it will be fun to go back there and check out Dayton. But this is a program that has had a lot of success over the course of their time, too. And they usually field a pretty competitive team that's right in the mix.
It'll be fun if we win. That's what makes it fun. Make no mistake about it. Yes, I worked at Dayton for 2 years. It was my introduction to Division I basketball. I played Division III basketball, and so at most of my games, you could count the number of people there. And then I went and joined the staff at University of Dayton, as you mentioned, and it was mind-blowing to me to, you know, go in some of these arenas and look up and see thousands and thousands of people. And it was really the time of my life. But I could say that about any of the stops that I've been at.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the commitment to basketball there. It's a basketball school, a lot like Marquette. It's a school with a rich tradition. I believe in the 1960s, the whole decade, they won more games than any other team in the United States. So you think about that type of tradition, kind of like the 70s here at Marquette. That laid a foundation for many, many, many good teams that followed. And I learned a lot, I worked in this little small room called the Avid Room, which at that time, that was the video technology we used, which is, it's funny going back to it. I mean, I was recording games going deck to deck. I was in charge. One of my jobs was to record every basketball game that came on TV anywhere in the country. And so I had 12 different VCRs.
Wow.
And I had 12 different cable decks. And I would set the VCRs and I would set the cable. And on Saturdays, I'd have to do it twice because the game started about 11 a.m. and then would go till midnight. And by the end of the year, I'd have a video library of about 1,600 VHS tapes. And I'd keep it in a closet, and I had it all cataloged, and I had it all, by alphabetical and by number, by date. And then when we would get our pairing, I was there 2 years. 1 year we made the NIT, and 1 year we made the NCAA tournament. And we find out who we were going to play. That was the moment of truth. I went to my video library, found out how many games I had, and usually we were in good shape, and then we could go right to studying the other team. It's come a long way. It's now everything's all digitized.
But do you use that with your video guys now? Like back in my day, I didn't have the luxury.
These guys, well, they don't like dealing with me on that stuff because I still think like that's my job. So, I'll be hitting them, before the first game and saying, hey, do we have this? Do we have that? So I still think that way. But I think as a head coach, if you've done certain jobs before, whether it's, video, tape exchange, whether you've been in charge with setting up the meals, the bus, you've done scouting reports, recruiting, obviously, that gives you a much better perspective than if you're trying to oversee or manage other people that are doing that job and you've never done it before.
Yeah, certainly it's come so far from a technology standpoint and all the different software systems that are out there that can cut it up for you and give you the looks that you want when you want to get in the room with the guys and go through all of those things. Take me through what you see from this Dayton team and what kind of a challenge they'll present.
Well, our one common opponent is Iowa State, and they were leading Iowa State for the majority of the game in Maui. It was the second game out of 3 in that tournament in Hawaii. Ended up losing a close one by, I think, 4 or 5 points. But really, really a senior-laden, talented, hot shooting team right now. We're going to have to do a great job getting our high hands up because they've got multiple guys shooting the lights out in the 40s or the 50s even percentage from 3. Like I said, a lot of older guys. The one guy that Marquette fans will recognize because we've played against him now, this will be his 3rd school that we've played against him at, is Posh Alexander. Started at St. John's and was, I believe, freshman of the year in the Big East, 50 years ago or whenever he first started. Went to Butler last year. We played against him a couple times. He was really good in the game here at Fiserv where they came and beat us. And now he's at Dayton. And just to show you the type of talent level that Dayton has on their team, Posh started every game for the most part everywhere he's been, going back to his freshman year at St. John's, and he comes off the bench for Dayton. So that just kind of shows you the level of talent and experience that they have on their roster.
You mentioned Posh being 3 different places, and we see that more and more in today's game, of course. Do you think that's helped talent be more distributed evenly across the game, or has it been more concentrated as a result of the portal?
I think a little bit of the former.
Yeah.
They just BYU just signed the top recruit in America for like $7 million. So, when's the last time the number 1 player in the country went to BYU? But again, that's their way. Everyone has their way. We have our way. We're not going to have a guy here that's on his 3rd school. We're going to try to develop. We got Zade Lowry's in the house, Royce Parham's in the house. Those are young players here that are in the formative time where they're growing and they're learning and their best basketball is ahead of them. But as you mentioned earlier, they take a lot of pride in the name on the front of the jersey.
Yeah.
And so that's just our way of doing it. Yes, certainly you're going to have some programs out there that maybe are not blue bloods that have blue blood type talent, or at least a couple of them, because of the transfer portal or because of NIL. But that's not something to, whine and complain about.
Yeah.
It just is what it is, and let's lace them up and play.
Every program's going to do it their own way and try to establish their own identity or culture of how they want to run their program moving forward. When you talk about Zaide and you talk about some of these other guys, I think you have a sophomore class. We talked about the freshmen. You have a sophomore class that is really exciting, and you see them stepping into roles as well.
We do. I think our sophomore class or our second-year players are better than they've played the first 10 games of the year. So I think there's a lot more in them. We had a meeting today with those guys, the guys that come off the bench, and I showed some clips of themselves with a voiceover from one of my favorite coaches talking about his young guys on his team, because everyone's going through the same things. But absolutely, Zade Lowry, Trey Norman, Caden Hamilton's in his second year, even though he's technically a redshirt freshman. Those guys come off the bench, and they can be a huge, huge domino for our team. Zaide, went down a few games ago, and so he's been working his way back. Practiced today, looked good, so hopefully he'll be out there on Saturday.
All right, well, we're going to let you step out and say hi to the folks here at Motor Bar and Restaurant for a little bit.
That's my favorite part.
I know. You're going to go work the crowd a little bit. You're good at that. And we're going to bring Zaide up here as well. Zade Lowry's with us. He's going to come up and talk a little bit with us as well. So, hey, Marquette fans, don't miss your chance to be a part of the excitement downtown at Fiserv Forum. Single game tickets for remaining games on sale now. Secure your tickets today at gomarquette.com/tickets or call 414-288-GOMU. GOMU. I know Coach wants to see you at Fiserv Forum as well over the rest of this season. All right, Coach, go work the crowd. We'll bring Zaide back when we return after this on the Marquette Basketball Hour. Motor Bar and Restaurant at the Harley Davidson Museum. Marquette Basketball Hour, and of course, tonight's Marquette player interview brought to you by Wintrust, Wisconsin's bank, the official banking partner of Marquette University, and home to Marquette Checking with free ATMs nationwide. Let's welcome in to the program Zade Lowry, sophomore for Marquette, and we were just talking about you a little bit. You probably heard Coach giving you some nice compliments.
Yep.
Crowd welcoming you here as well to Motor Bar and Restaurant. Well, first off, just great to have you with us. Take us through what the first 10 games of the season have felt like for you and where you think things are headed.
It felt a lot different. I got a bigger role this year than last year, and just going in just like last year, just with a defensive identity, and I think just taking on challenges to really guard the best players on their team. So I think it's a little different from last year, but not too much in a way of I'm going in the game to do the same thing. Offense-wise, I just let it come to me, be ready to shoot, attack, and I'm enjoying it with the guys. So we go to Dayton on Saturday, and we'll get that for our team. So.
Zaide, Coach was talking about how you go through freshman year, and when you come back, in spring after the season's over and you start doing off-season conditioning, everything kind of changes for a freshman. You really take that transformation into being a sophomore.
Yeah.
How much more confident are you as a sophomore now and just feel more at ease, if you will?
A lot more confident. I went into the games last year kind of like nervous almost every game, just going in there not wanting to make a mistake. I think just the work we put in over the summer, the growth plans that we have and the things that we have on the growth plans to do, I think just getting on the court, doing work off the court in the weight room and taking care of our body in the training room gives me a lot of confidence to go out there and just play freely for my brothers and the coaches and stuff. So I think that's a big area where I grew.
Fair to say things become more second nature.
Yeah.
You always hear people say don't think. Well, you have to think,
Yeah,
but
sure.
at the same time, for it to be easy and kind of click for you in that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Zade Lowry is our guest here on the Marquette Basketball Hour. I did the Western Carolina game on television. At the very end of that game, you went down with an injury. It was scary. It's great to know that you feel like things are going well and you're going to be able to get back on the court.
Yeah, for sure. I was able to practice today. Normally, this to start off the week, I kind of was doing non-contact stuff in practice and wasn't in every drill. And the trainers, coaches, and me decided on how I was feeling, just being able to practice today. So I think when I went out there, I was a little nervous for it because I haven't been practicing for the last couple of days or weeks, whatever it is. But I was feeling good in practice today, and I'll be ready to play on Dayton on Saturday.
Going back to freshman year to sophomore year, what did you tell yourself at the end of last year that you wanted to work on the most, and what feedback did you get from the coaches to come back ready to contribute more with as a sophomore?
Honestly, just confidence. I think that's a big thing because there's a lot of players last year, and we have most of the same players this year, but there's a lot of the players telling me, like, next year I'll have a bigger role, and at the time I didn't really know what that meant, but now, like, just through 10 games, like, I really know what it means that I be aggressive, still be able to guard the best players on the team, and do whatever I can do in my power to make our team win.
Let's talk about you and your basketball journey. When did you fall in love with the game? What are some of your earliest basketball memories?
So I didn't start playing – I tell this story a lot. I didn't start playing basketball, taking it serious until, like, my freshman year in high school. I started off playing football. I've been playing football since first grade to my junior year in high school. And my junior year in high school, I decided to go to prep school to take on basketball serious. And I think just being able to try a different sport, which ended up being basketball, I had got hurt in football. I had dislocated my elbow, and I didn't want to play football anymore after that. So I decided to play a new sport, and it ended up being basketball. And I was at this tournament. I was at this big tournament that we had got put in, and it kind of switched because one team dropped out, so we got put in the tournament. And Shaka actually, he ended up being at the game, so it's kind of luck, but at the same time, like it's a great opportunity that he was there watching my game. And we ended up losing, but I had 36 in that game, so.
Pretty good for a football player.
Yeah, for sure.
Zaide, we hear everybody talk about specialization in sports now, youth sports, everybody, specialization. You hear a lot of college coaches say, no, I want a multi-sport athlete. You're a great example of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Things you probably learned on the football field help you as a basketball player. Would you say so?
Yeah, I would say so for sure. In football, like my things that I kind of consist of in football would just run it down the field, jump up and catch the ball over the corner. And I feel like just that I could put that in with rebounding, dunking, with any of that. So I think a lot of the things that I learned in football I carried over to basketball.
All right, what do you do when you're not on the basketball floor, when you're not dedicating yourself to being the best basketball player you can be? And, of course, academics a big part of it too. But take those two things out. What are your interests? What do you like to do to kill some time?
I do spend a lot of time with my teammates, going out to eat, whatever it is, playing the game, just spending a lot of time with them because we believe that relationships is a big part of what we do around here in our culture. So I say just spending a lot of time with them, playing the game, whether it's playing the game, eating, any of that, and then that's really it, to be honest.
How important is that, though? I mean, you just touched on it, obviously, that it's a tight-knit group. It's not a huge number of guys in basketball, and you spend a ton of time together. You travel together. You're in the hotels together. It's important that everybody get along and find a way to really lift each other up in the tough moments. There's going to be adversity in a college basketball season. So if you guys are close and you have each other's backs, it makes it that much easier to go through those times.
Yeah, it's very important. There's not a lot of teams around the country that are as connected as us, and I feel like Coach Shaka kind of hits on the relationships, and that's why you see a lot of players transferring schools every year, and just go to different schools for different reasons. But I mean, we grow from freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors. We grow with each other over the years, and I feel like that's why we had so much success in the past and this year so far.
I know you were upset and disappointed you weren't able to be out on the floor for Wisconsin, for Iowa State, but at the same time, take the first loss of the season on the road in a really tough environment at Hilton Coliseum in Ames to bounce back and play the way the team played. I mean, that you learn a lot about the team coming off a loss like that, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we talked about that. We really just use that as motivation and power, and we do that. Like, we don't only want to do that when we lose, but just as much as when we win. So I think it's super important that we kind of take that confidence that we had in the loss and just carry it over to the next game, whether it's a win or loss.
All right, you managing finals week okay? Everything good?
Yeah.
You almost done?
Yeah, I got one more, so.
All right, well, we'll let you get back to that.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate it, Zaide. Thanks so much.
You.
Good luck with the rest of finals. Good luck this weekend at Dayton.
Thank you.
You bet. Appreciate it. Zade Lowry, Marquette sophomore, with us here on the Marquette Basketball Hour as we are live from Motor Bar and Restaurant here at the Harley Davidson.
Your interview promo again.
Harley Davidson Museum. Kent Sommerfeld is in my ear. I'm used to that. He's in my ear all summer as well doing Brewers baseball. Tonight's Marquette player interview was brought to you by Wintrust, Wisconsin's bank, the official banking partner of Marquette University, and home to Marquette checking with free ATMs nationwide. Again, thanks to Zade Lowry. We will be back with more from Motor Bar and Restaurant here at the Harley Davidson Museum on the Marquette Basketball Hour. Back with you on the Marquette Basketball Hour. Marquette fans, Buffalo Wild Wings, the official viewing party location for Marquette road games this season. Check out the Golden Eagles watch party schedule at gomarquette.com/BWW. The next watch party is this Saturday. That would be December 14th at Oak Creek, the Oak Creek Buffalo Wild Wings location. Marquette taking on Dayton, as we talked about with Coach earlier. That's a 6 p.m. tip. Let's go sports bar. All right, Coach, real quick, just to revisit the Wisconsin game a little bit more. 5 turnovers in that game. You have to like that when the team takes care of the basketball.
That's a big deal. The goal line on offense is for a Marquette team score. We always say a team score, meaning we don't really care who puts the ball in the basket. We just want Marquette to put the ball in the basket. And we always remind our guys that if you turn the ball over, then that's necessarily 0 points per possession. And our guys have done a good job so far this year taking care of the ball.
Yeah, it's a huge emphasis for any team. But with the way you have the propensity for turning teams over, it's a pretty good combination if you can do those two things well. Your thoughts just in general of what you've seen from the Big East Conference so far through non-conference play. What has stood out to you?
I haven't paid a ton of attention to the Big East Conference just because I'm focused on our next game. But obviously just, being a fan of college basketball, I think I've caught pretty much every team in the league playing some. And then I saw parts of the Providence DePaul game the other day. I was recruiting. I was on my way back from a high school game and saw some of that game. So, it's going to be a challenging year in the league like every other. I think you've got teams that are still kind of figuring out who they are. You've got teams that are very, very talented and, maybe a little bit ahead on the offensive end. Then you got other teams that are very, very hard to score on. So, obviously, it's the team that finds the best combination of offense and defense and, most importantly, culture that is going to come out on top.
I don't know that this surprises you. There's been a lot of upsets already in college basketball. I think we say that a lot in December, but there's been a lot again this year.
There always is. Yeah, I think, most importantly, players at various schools, even schools that, might not have as big of names, they don't fear the guys at big schools like they used to. It used to be like if you were playing in what's called a guarantee game, you knew that, this is going to be really, really hard because we're playing against, fill in the blank big school, and they're going to take it to us. Now, you see over and over those games, come down to the wire, and, sometimes the smaller school winning.
When you put together a non-conference schedule, how much consideration is there to style of play? We want to see teams that run a little bit, but are you able to do that? Is that harder to do than to say?
It's a good question because there's a lot of factors that go into the non-conference schedule, and there's increasingly more factors with just the way things are changing in college basketball. But if you believe that you're a team that can make an advance in the NCAA tournament, then absolutely your non-conference schedule should be set up to help you do so. It also should be set up to help you be prepared when your first league game comes about for whatever it is you might see, including style of play. So you want to prepare for different styles of play. At the same time, there are certain styles of play that maybe you want to stay away from, particularly very early in the year. There's one team, for example, I won't name their name, that is a kind of low major or mid-major school, and they have a terrific zone defense, really good. And they have knocked off some bigger teams over the past few years. And when people schedule them, I just kind of shake my head and say, why would you do that? Because that zone is something that you can't replicate in practice. It's something that you don't see from anyone else. It's actually their primary defense. Yeah. Unlike most teams, zone is like a high school 2-3 zone. These guys are actually really good at that. So sometimes we do want to make sure we avoid stuff like that.
And you definitely don't want to probably see that early.
Yes, particularly early in the year because, your guys are a little bit less seasoned early in the year. But, what we try to do in our non-conference schedule is make sure that we are maximizing the opportunity to play quad one games. Like this game against Dayton, win or lose, will be a quad one game. It'll be a game that at the end of the year, when the NCAA selection committee looks at our resume, Dayton will be on the left column, which is quad 1. There's quad 1, quad 2, quad 3, quad 4. And when you see, all the craziness build up to Selection Sunday, they compare people's resumes, and one of the biggest things they compare is quad 1 record. What's your record in quad 1 games? Now, those are also the hardest games to win. There's a reason that it's quad 1. It's because they're very challenging games to win. But if you don't schedule those type of games in non-conference play, then you basically are only going to get what you get from the Big East schedule. And obviously we get some in the Big East schedule, but we want to augment that with our non-conference schedule. And then the one other thing, and I say this as much as I can in front of fans, is I believe we owe it to our fans to play at least a couple big-time games at Fiserv Forum in non-conference play. And if you look at a lot of these bigger schools' schedules, they don't do that. They might play neutral games, or they may play in a multi-team event, a tournament in the islands or whatever. But they don't necessarily bring those games in at home. And so if you look at our schedule in a given year, this year it's Purdue, Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. Next year Maryland comes back. Dayton comes back. These are good teams. These are good games. These are exciting games for the fans to watch because, fans are human beings too. They would rather see a certain opponent or a certain matchup than seeing you play against, as my wife Maya says, little sisters of the poor.
Well, so just to get into it a little bit more on the quad 1 and quad 2 and the net rankings and everything else, do you have members of your staff that in the off season they're diving into that and trying to figure out exactly how the net works?
Oh man, we have members of our staff? We have all these scheduling experts around. Yeah. First of all, there's companies now that they specialize in this. They can predict based on analytics and based on statistics what each team is going to be and what the percentage chance that team's going to be quad 1, quad 2, quad 3, quad 4. There's 4 quads. So, for example, the one guy, and these guys are like too smart for their own good. I'm not being critical of them, but this guy's a Harvard grad, sharp dude. He's the head of this analytics company, and he sent an email early in the year, and he said, that Stony Brook game is a worrisome game because there's an 8% chance that you'll lose. Stony Brook. Who was at the Stony Brook game? And I was like, if we lose that game, we got bigger problems, than, what quad it's in or any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
But, yeah, to answer your point, it's very, very analyzed. It's very detailed. You go into the year, and there's predictions on how many quad 1 games you're going to get out of it. But, sometimes teams surprise you. Like, I'll give you an example. We played UCLA in Maui last year, in Hawaii last year. You would never, ever guess that UCLA would be a quad 3 game on a neutral court, because to be a quad 1 game in a neutral court, you got to be top 50 in the net. To be a quad 2, you got to be top 100 in the net. UCLA's net ended up being like 105. You would never guess that from UCLA. And if you remember, we were a Sean Jones made 3-point basket away from losing that game. We won the game. Sean hit a big 3 with about 40 seconds left, and that advanced us to the Kansas game. But if we lose that game, now we play Chaminade in the second game, and it's a completely different schedule when you're in the loser's bracket. And so scheduling is an inexact science for sure.
I want to give you a chance before we say goodbye to you, Shaka, to talk about volleyball. They've got a big weekend coming up as well. Of course, Sweet 16, hopefully Elite 8 on the horizon for them, playing Penn State on Friday, a big moment for the volleyball program.
Well, Ryan Tice and his staff and his team, they deserve incredible credit. I would say of all the sports programs in the Marquette athletic department, they are the standard for consistency. And, it doesn't just happen in their matches. It happens with the way that they practice, the way they prepare. We share in the AL a meal room with the volleyball and women's basketball. So those young ladies are in the meal room, eating lunch, eating dinner. And when you interact with them, they act like winners. there's a certain way that winners act. They have an expectation to win. They have a way that they treat each other. They look each other in the eye. There's a maturity, a competitive maturity that they have. And Ryan's program has that. And that's why it's no surprise that they're in the Sweet 16. So, pulling for them like crazy tomorrow night at Penn State, it's a heck of a challenge, as you know. These Big Ten programs are phenomenally good in volleyball. But, Ryan is a heck of a coach, and he's got a heck of a team. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, good luck to them, and good luck to you this weekend against Dayton. Good luck to the players getting through the rest of finals week as well. Thank you so much for giving us time here tonight for the Marquette Basketball Hour.
You got it. Thank you, guys.
You bet. Marquette head coach Shaka Smart with us here from the Motor Bar and Restaurant at the Harley Davidson Museum. Hey, Marquette fans, don't miss your chance to be a part of the excitement downtown at Fiserv Forum. Again, single game tickets still remaining for some games, and they're on sale now. Secure your tickets today at gomarquette.com/tickets or call 414-288-GO-MU. We will be back and wrap things up right after this on the Marquette Basketball Hour. Going to do it for us here tonight from the Motor Bar and Restaurant at the Harley Davidson Museum. Thanks to everybody for coming out here tonight to listen to Coach And to listen to Zade Lowry as well. Of course, Dayton coming up this weekend on the road, and then the next home game will be against Butler. That opens up conference play as well on December 18th. Thanks to Kent Sommerfeld. I'm Lane Grindle. Thanks, everybody.